Hey and welcome to the Daily Arsenal News Show. Let's begin with our daily news. Pundit says £25 million player must now leave Arsenal after what Arteta did this weekend. Kris Commons has admitted that he has been left baffled by Kieran Tierney being out of favour at Arsenal and suggested that a move to Newcastle United may be best for the left back this summer. Commons was speaking to the Mail after Kieran Tierney was surprisingly left out of the starting lineup for Saturday's trip to Nottingham Forest. Of course, it was a game Arsenal needed to win to stand any chance of stopping Manchester City clinching the title. Unfortunately for the Gunners, it proved to be a miserable occasion. Arsenal were so poor, and Mikel Arteta arguably has to take a lot of the blame. The formation was difficult to pin down, and the decision to seemingly pick Thomas Partey and Jakub Kivior as the starting fullbacks backfired. There has been speculation Tierney could leave Arsenal for Newcastle this summer, and after Arteta's decision this past weekend, it's hard to see the Scotland international sticking around. Certainly, Commons believes that the time has come for Tierney to seek a new challenge. He said, with Zinchenko missing at left back, that should have been a green light for Tierney to start against Nottingham Forest on Saturday night, but Mikel Arteta chose to start Polish youngster Jakub Kivior instead of Tierney. Signed from Serie A side Spezia in January, Kivior is a centre-back by trade, but he was picked ahead of Tierney, something which I found pretty perplexing to be honest, given that Tierney remains one of the best left-backs in Europe on his day. He looked like he was going to be a key player in the revolution under Arteta. I find it really strange the way Tierney seems to have fallen out of favour. I have seen a lot of stories doing the rounds over the past week about how Eddie Howe wants to make Tierney Newcastle's first choice left back next season. I think it's a move which would make a lot of sense and tick a lot of boxes for both the club and the player himself. Manchester United now monitoring record-breaking Arsenal youngster he could leave this summer. Manchester United are now reportedly monitoring Arsenal youngster Ethan Nwaneri ahead of the summer transfer window. That's according to The Athletic, who claimed that Nwaneri is facing a decision over his future ahead of his schoolboy registration ending in June. Nwaneri has made quite the name for himself this season after becoming the youngest player in Premier League history back in September. The 16-year-old was brought off the bench during Arsenal's win at Brentford, and he looks set to have a bright future ahead of him. But Arsenal are facing a battle to keep hold of the talented teenager, with a host of Premier League sides monitoring his situation at the Emirates Stadium, and it seems that Erik ten Hag's men are one of the many sides who could make their move for Nwaneri next month. The Athletic reports that Nwaneri is yet to decide on his future, with his schoolboy registration set to finish next month. Arsenal have not given up hope of keeping the talented youngster in North London, and talks have recently taken place. But Manchester United, Manchester City, and Chelsea are all monitoring his situation. The Gunners will be desperate to keep hold of Nwaneri as the teenager looks set to become a star in the future. At just 16, he has already made his debut in the Premier League, and it would be a bitter pill for Arsenal to swallow if he was to join a rival. It would be a surprise to see Nwaneri move on, as he seems to be at the perfect place for his development. Mikel Arteta has shown he is willing to give younger players an opportunity in the first team, with Arsenal boasting the youngest side in the Premier League. Arsenal now keen to sell phenomenal player this summer, set to make a big loss. Arsenal are now keen to sell winger Nicolas Pepe this summer, but may struggle to recoup much of the huge fee they spent on the forward. That's according to journalist Bennett Jacobs via Give Me Sport, who shares an update on the 27-year-old. When Arsenal spent £72 million on Pepe in 2019, there were huge expectations for the Ivorian international. He had just helped guide Lille to a second place finish in League One. Nicolas Pepe was the star of the campaign, scoring 22 goals and providing 11 assists. Even if you take away the 9 goals he scored from the penalty spot, his numbers were still very impressive. However, Pepe never seemed to settle at the Emirates and was the focus of many fans' displeasure in the side. The 27-year-old was sent on loan to Nice this season after being deemed surplus to requirements. The performances of Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli have fully justified that decision from Mikel Arteta. Leandro Trossard's arrival in January may have been the final nail in the coffin of Pepe's Arsenal career, and the club are now keen to sell him. It makes sense for all parties to cut their losses this summer and move on. Speaking about the Ivorian winger, Jacob said, "We know that Nicolas Pepe is another. It's a shame, really, that hasn't worked out, and Arsenal are not going to be able to recoup that fee. But he is another one that Arsenal would like to cash in on, and what they get for him will still be very important. You feel in terms of being able to spend what they want to spend in the summer window because every fee is going to help." The phenomenal winger needed to have the campaign of his life to convince Arteta to give him another chance next season. However, just 6 goals for Nice won't have done that, and he is started less than half of their games this season. Arsenal will want to sell Pepe for as much money as possible this summer. However, it seems impossible that they will recoup even half the fee they originally spent on him 4 years ago. Paul Merson suggests Arsenal should now look at world-class 30-year-old from a Premier League rival. Paul Merson has surprisingly suggested that Arsenal may want to consider a move for Romelu Lukaku this summer, with the Gunners needing to sign a goal-scoring striker. Marson was speaking to Give Me Sport after Mikel Arteta's side officially ensured that they would be finishing second in the Premier League this season. It has been such a promising campaign for Arsenal, but ultimately they had little left to give in the final weeks of the season, and they were unable to hold off the relentless Manchester City any longer. Not only will they look to improve in the league next year, but Arsenal also have a Champions League campaign to prepare for, and with that, Paul Merson feels that they need another striker. In fact, he suggested that one player Arsenal should look at is a certain Romelu Lukaku. He said, "Arsenal need a centre forward. They need someone who is going to get them 25 goals a season. I am not having a go at Gabriel Jesus. He is a very good player and he has been a brilliant signing, but he is not going to get you the goals you need on his own. The other day against Brighton, I don't remember him ever looking like scoring. Romelu Lukaku might be available. The 30-year-old is an out-and-out centre forward. He will stay up front and back into players that might help Arsenal. Chelsea may welcome any offers which come in for the world-class Belgian. However, they spent £97.5 million on Lukaku, so he is unlikely to come cheap. With that, it's hard to see Arsenal being willing to pay the kind of fee the Blues would be looking for before they let the 30-year-old join a Premier League rival, and in truth, Arsenal fans will probably feel that there are much better options out there on the market. Pundit claims a player Arsenal sold for £8 million is actually better than a 25-year-old Gunners star. Tony Cascarino has claimed that Arsenal made a big mistake selling Bernd Leno in the summer, insisting that there is little between himself and Aaron Ramsdale. Cascarino was speaking to Talk Sport after Fulham all but guaranteed a top-half finish in the Premier League with their draw against Crystal Palace on Saturday. Of course, Marco Silva's men have really proved a lot of doubters wrong following promotion, but their recruitment has been so smart, and one of their most inspired pieces of business was bringing Bernd Leno in from Arsenal. It was no surprise to see Leno leave the Emirates in the summer. The German spent the large majority of last season as understudy to Aaron Ramsdale. Remarkably, Fulham signed him for an initial £3 million. Arsenal have not exactly missed him. They have had an unbelievable season, and Ramsdale has been outstanding, producing a number of brilliant performances. Nevertheless, Cascarino claimed that the Gunners made an error letting Leno leave. He said, I think, and this one's a little bit more controversial, is I think Leno was a big mistake for Arsenal to let go. I thought Leno was a better keeper than Ramsdale. Now, a lot of people will disagree with me, but I didn't think there was a lot to choose from them. I thought they were very close on the levels. Leno's had a terrific season for Fulham. It's hard to be too critical of Arsenal. The Gunners could not have expected Leno to be content with being the backup once again this term. And in fairness, Matt Turner has done very little wrong. Perhaps you could question Arsenal letting him go for so little. Ultimately, they will receive up to £8 million for him. But if Ramsdale continues on his current trajectory, Arsenal are not going to regret letting Leno move elsewhere last summer. Paul Merson claims a £28 million Premier League striker just isn't good enough to sign for Arsenal. Paul Merson has warned Arsenal not to make a move for Aston Villa forward Ollie Watkins this summer. Speaking to Give Me Sport, Marson outlined what the Gunners need to do over the summer to prepare for next season. After months of leading the way in the Premier League, Arsenal have fallen short in their effort to win the league title. Their recent poor form handed Manchester City the trophy this weekend after a defeat to Nottingham Forest. It shouldn't be ignored just how far Arsenal have come this season under Mikel Arteta. The Gunners will be returning to the Champions League for the first time in 7 seasons next year. Arteta will be well aware that reinforcement are needed for next season to keep this level of performance up. Paul Merson has warned Arsenal not to make a move for Ollie Watkins this summer, despite his brilliant season at Villa Park. He doesn't believe the England international is up to the standard required at the Emirates. Speaking about potential attacking signing in the next few months, Merson said, Ollie Watkins, I can't see scoring 25 goals a season. Unai Emery has made him a better player, but I don't think he has the quality. If Arsenal bought him and he only got 10 goals next season, you wouldn't be shocked. The £28 million forward has been a player reborn under Unai Emery after he replaced Steven Gerrard this season. He's been linked with the likes of Bayern München in recent weeks, which shows how impressive he's been. Villa have one game left this season, and a win could see them return to European football. Mikel Arteta tells Arsenal to go and sign exceptional 32-year-old. Arsenal do have a concrete interest in Ilkay Gundogan, with Mikel Arteta driving their interest in the Manchester City star. That is according to David Ornstein in his column for The Athletic, who notes that the Arsenal boss views the Germany international as the ideal replacement for Granit Xhaka. It's going to be a massive summer for the Gunners, of course. They have enjoyed such a promising season, but they are in danger of moving backwards rapidly if they do not strengthen further. Plenty of rivals will be better next year, and Arsenal's squad has really been stretched at times this term, but there is a brilliant opportunity there. One of the names on Arsenal's radar, according to The Athletic, is Ilkay Gundogan, and the report notes that Arteta is the one pushing for the 32-year-old to sign for the Gunners, having previously worked with him at the Etihad Stadium. Arteta feels that Gundogan would be the ideal replacement for Granit Xhaka as he seemingly nears the Emirates exit. As things stand, Gundogan will leave City as a free agent this summer. There is also interest from Barcelona, but the citizens could yet look to agree an extension with the midfielder. It would be a huge statement if Arsenal could convince Gundogan to join them. He is perhaps approaching the twilight of his career at the very highest level age-wise, but he has proved that he remains one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. Pep Guardiola recently labelled Gundogan an exceptional footballer, and he has really made a massive difference in the title race. If Arsenal get a sense that he could come in, it's a no-brainer to make a move. I will be uploading daily Arsenal news, so keep your eyes on the channel and don't forget to like and subscribe. I appreciate your support. Peace out.